Welcome to Club Fuck It Bucket episode 26. I am back. It's been kind of on again, off again since I got back from surfing, but I am so excited to be here in a place where we come together and we talk about moments in our lives when we really wanted to do something, but all of our instincts and maybe the people around us and maybe even Google were like, that is a bad idea. There's too much risk. And we're just like, you know what? Fuck it. We're going to try and see what happens. And today I have a fucketeer who is absolutely amazing. Claire E. Parsons, come out and join us. And you all will notice that I said it very Claire E. Parsons because there is also another Claire Parsons who's very well known on LinkedIn, and two fantastically amazing humans, but two also different LinkedIn profiles. So Claire, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about kind of your journey into how you're helping people find deeper levels of themselves and find success. But before we do that, one of the things that I want to talk about. So for those of you who haven't been on the show, when you sign up to come on the show and you go into the Calendly to schedule it, there's a moment where it says, I'll complete the pre-work. And you have to actually type in, what does it say, Claire?
You have to promise not to be an asshat?
Yes, I promise not to be an asshat, and I will complete the form. So just so you all know, we're about 50-50. Like 50% of the guests don't fill out the form and 50% of them do. So some of the questions that we ask, though, are like, how would you survive a zombie apocalypse? And what would your WWE walk-in song be? And I'm fully obsessed with the fact that your WWF walk-in song would be Africa by Toto. Like, I just love that. But more than that, you said that you make up songs on the fly. Like, that's something that you do. So would you not just make up a song for your WWF walk-in song? And if you did, what would it be like?
You know, I didn't even think about that as an option, but it is very possible that they may play a song and I would just be singing a different song in my head. So yeah, I mean, I picked Africa by Toto because I think it's unexpected and it kind of gets into your brain and then you're just nodding along and like all of a sudden you're absorbed in it, even though it's kind of silly. And then I'll just like swoop in and win. So that's what I was thinking would happen. But yeah, I might just make up different lyrics along the way. So yeah, I mean, it's just a rhyming and, you know, coming up with silly ideas is just something that when I became a mom, I really found a use for. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I can see. I mean, it is a hypnotic song where you just like get so into it that you have no idea what else is happening. So one of these days we will convince you to make up a song for us. But so when you're not making up songs and swooping in to win WWF wrestling matches and being a mom, what do you do for work?
Yeah, so I'm a lawyer. I work at a firm called Wood Lamping in Cincinnati, and I just transferred over there. Actually, I was at a different firm for most of my career, and I just decided to switch it up. So I do municipal law, school law, employment law, and then also litigation. And I've practiced for about 14 years, and I really like it.
That's amazing. So 2 questions. The first one is the most least important, and the second one leads us into our conversation. How do you eat your chili?
Oh, you mean because I'm from Cincinnati?
Yeah, I'm a 5-way girl.
I eat chili. If you mean Skyline chili, which is the only kind I like, I'm not going to, Dixie chili is trash, so I don't eat that. Sorry, everyone. But Skyline 4-way, and it's got to have some hot sauce or the habanero cheese on it because I'm a spicy person.
All right. So I do the hot sauce as well, but I'm a 5-way. I like the whole shebang on there. So, and if you all don't know what Cincinnati chili is and what Skyline chili is, you are missing out, and you should definitely get some before you die because it's very important experience to have. But then the second part of this is you're a lawyer, and it's been my experience that lawyers have a very different relationship with risk than your average person because you spend your entire career looking at and either justifying or unjustifying, whatever the opposite of that is, for clients and cases. So how do you feel about risk? Like, how do you manage risk in your life?
So yeah, and I've been a defense lawyer. So usually if I've done litigation, it's not litigation I filed, it's litigation I'm defending. And so we are always trying to navigate risk. I've also done general counsel work where I'm trying to advise and avoid risk. And so, yeah, in general, we're opposed to risk. And I think sometimes we can be too careful about risk. But one of the things that I think litigation experience has given me is an understanding that there's always a risk to non-action as well. So you don't just evaluate the risk of action, you also evaluate, well, what's the danger and the downside if I don't act? And you kind of can factor things in more holistically. So I think experience doing that kind of can help you balance things a little bit more and learn how to manage the fears and the things you can't control that come up along the way.
Right. Right. Which makes sense. So do you use the same process in your personal life evaluating risk as you do, like, do you pull from your training as an attorney to evaluate things in your personal life, or like your career choices, those types of things? Or do you have a different process for that because it's personal rather than for clients?
I think early on, I used to treat almost everything like a legal issue. And I think what I've learned to do more and more in my life is to frankly bring more of my personality into my law practice and more, and then my legal training just kind of organically can help me in my life. So
Okay.
I think that what I kind of have learned to do with my own life, and then now I teach other lawyers, is that our humanity is part of what makes us awesome as lawyers. And so let's stop hiding it and being afraid of it and learning how to take care of it. And when I started to do that, it just kind of became, I was just Claire in my life and in my law practice, and there wasn't this big division.
Oh, I love that. And now, but you're teaching that to other attorneys as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How did that start? Was it like, were people coming to you and going, hey, you kind of have your shit together and you look way more zen than the rest of us. What are you doing? Or like smoking, or like what face cream do you put on or something? Or like, did you start going to other people and saying, hey, I'm doing this and it changed my life, and if you want me to show you how, I will?
Yeah, no, people weren't coming to me, and this is my like fuck it moment, right? So people were not coming to me because nobody knew I did it. When I started meditating originally, I didn't tell anybody. I like didn't even tell my husband. I told him I was taking a nap, and I was kind of embarrassed by it and afraid of what it meant. And then after some years, I practiced for a long time, and it changed my life. It stopped me from overthinking so much. I learned how to take better care of my emotions and get more comfortable with them. I learned how to not be such a loner about everything.
Mhm.
And it changed things for me. And I like speaking and I like writing. So about 4 years into my meditation practice, I started writing about mindfulness. And then there was a women's summit coming up in my area. And I applied to speak at it after my coach encouraged me to do so. I was kind of afraid to do that because at the time I wasn't really trained, and I was worried about people thinking I was weird. And my coach just kind of said, Claire, if it helped you, it'll probably help other people. And she also said, like, you've been practicing and studying this for years and years and years, and you've worked so much on it, like, you know what you're talking about. So don't be afraid.
Right. Well, I can't imagine that as an attorney, that there's a world in which you actually would show up kind of unprepared for anything like that. Like, isn't that kind of part and parcel of who you become, like who you are as a person? Like, were you as a kid somebody who always showed up with the assignments done and probably done really well and those types of things?
Yeah, and that's true. And I think one of the other things that kind of helped me get past that idea was that, well, I'm not necessarily just teaching the concepts. I'm helping people understand how they work in their own life. So the fact that I haven't necessarily flown to India or
No,
done
eat, pray,
training
love
for all
moment
these.
for
Yeah, some of the fact that I learned this on my own in my house, with the tools and resources available, is in part why I was able to talk to people on their level, and get them to understand it in a way that maybe somebody else couldn't. And so that was part of the value.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that you put as in the prep is that you have anxiety, and I I'm like a bucket of anxiety. In fact, my best friends and I, we all connect because we're so anxious about everything. We call ourselves overthinkers, right? Like this is what we do. Um, how, like, even in this new state of mind that you had and all of these things that you did, how much work did you have to do by yourself and with your coach and maybe a therapist or whoever, and like mindfulness, to overcome that kind of natural anxiety that you have about doing this?
I think, like, I don't know that I would say overcame it, and I probably I don't really even like that word so much with some of this, and here's why. Because I think some of, like, my overthinking and my anxiety tendencies are part of my personality. So I don't think there's any amount of mindfulness or therapy or medication, frankly, that's going to change that. But what I do think mindfulness does is that it helps you manage some of those low level behaviors that get you sucked into the thought spirals. So one is that it just teaches you when you are thinking, and when you are aware you're thinking, then you can next challenge, wait, is this thought actually true? Or you can realize this thought spiral is actually just a product of my fear. What am I afraid of? And then you might learn to care for those emotions, ask for help, write them out to get them out of your head, or things like that. So that's one reason mindfulness helped. But the reality is, I think some of it is just that I'm also, like, aware when fear and overthinking come up. And so one of the biggest practices I really love is keeping track of the times where I freak out about something, and then I go ahead and do the thing anyway, and then it's not a big deal. Like,
Yes.
I kind of have a list of those things, because then I can laugh at myself on the back end, and it's almost celebrating that, I'm a little bit silly, but I'm also courageous. And so that, I think some of what mindfulness gives us is paying attention to our experience, and that creates confidence at the back end.
I love that. And then it makes it easier to like manage those things the next time it comes around, because you can tell yourself, instead of telling yourself untrue stories about all of the things that could or are going to happen, you can tell yourself a very true story about what really did happen last time you did that. And that gets really exciting. I actually keep it on my phone. I have a little sticky note that I look at a lot, and I say, am I telling myself a true story? Because my anxiety will make up very worst case scenarios, right? All the time. I did see somebody, hey, Andrew, I'm so, like, one of my favorite people. One of the most exciting, best episodes we ever had was when Andrew came on. Somebody popped in a moment ago and said, fellow overthinker here, or something like that. Like, I think, oh, Chris. Yep, there we go. So, Chris, who's my amazing, producer of the live streams, and that is true. Like, he comes and asks questions a lot of times, like, is this right? But I think there's also a moment I don't remember as a kid. I don't remember my mom or any adult figures that I had around me talking about, I have anxiety and how do I manage it? Or I am an overthinker and how do I kind of weave mechanisms of behavior into my everyday to handle that? Do you feel like that's a newer, more prevalent way of thinking and addressing this? And do you think it will continue to grow as acceptable in the workplace?
I think that we do have more knowledge than when, like, I was a kid growing up. We just have more science and understanding of emotions and how the brain works and everything like that. And kids are getting like social emotional learning and those kind of resources in school now. And so I do think it will grow. I don't know that my parents told me like what they did to manage things for themselves. I do remember that my dad would share when he was afraid of things. I started practicing law right when my dad had retired from an old job and then went back into private practice at about the same time. And my dad shared how he was worried about building a practice and developing business and stuff because he never had to do it. And right now he's got so much business he can't even keep his himself straight. But but having that story, like my really successful dad telling me he was afraid, was just something that gave me a lot of permission to feel fear and still try things anyway.
That's amazing. And now as a mom, do you have those conversations as well?
Yeah, my oldest is actually an anxiety kid, and so I've talked to her a lot. Like sometimes she struggles a little bit at school, like socially, because she's like in fifth grade and everything's changing. And I told her that I dealt with the same thing all the time. And I said, one of the things I've learned is that, you do have to start being yourself a little bit and trust people with who you are. Because if you don't, they'll never know. Like you just do a little bit that scares you. One thing today that scares you just a little bit and see what happens. And I bet you'll find you'll get some better results. And so she started to open up a little bit more about things like that. But I think that when she has a real hard time, me sharing stories of being afraid, I think that is one of the things that's most effective to help her talk to me.
I love that. I can't remember what the name of the movie was. I think maybe it was like So We Bought a Zoo or something, but one of the main characters says, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage, just literally 20 seconds of embarrassing bravery. And I promise you, it will change your life. And like those, I try to remember that. Do you watch her have fuck it moments as well? Like as she's practicing this, is she at the place where you can see her kind of have that moment where she's like, you know what, I am scared and I'm gonna find my bravery and I'm just gonna do the thing.
Well, I did just see her like she played soccer this year, and she's not like the big athlete or anything. She's more of an art music kind of kid, but she had a really great coach who just was super exciting and fun, and he's young and all the kids liked him. And I just saw her go out there and actually play really hard, and she was sort of tussling with some kids that were twice her size on the field and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. So yeah, you can see that come along. And for girls at her age, when confidence starts to drop at that point, you're watching it really carefully. But I think some of it is, as a parent, it's really hard to watch your kids struggle and let them, because they learn from it. But yeah, like be there for them, but let them struggle too. That's hard, but it's exciting also.
Yeah, you just want to like take away all the pain so that they don't have to feel it. But you are living your truth and you're, doing this. And I believe that one of the best ways to inspire that type of courage in your children is to live it yourself. Because my kids watch me screw up my own courage to do things on a regular basis. And one thing that you've done that I think is incredibly courageous is you've written a couple of books.
Yeah, well, I have one out. I have another one coming. So, yeah, I have this one is out. It's How to Be a Badass Lawyer. And it's about mindfulness and compassion. It's mostly for lawyers, but other people could read it and benefit from it too. That just came out a couple weeks ago. And because of my tendency to come up with random rhymes and songs, I have a children's book coming out in a few months this spring. Called Mommy Needs a Minute, which is about a mom who wants to meditate and asks her kids to leave her alone for a few minutes so she can do it. So
good luck with that. Like I have raised small children, and that is hard to do. So I'm so glad that you came on, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you. You all, this is the first time that Claire and I have had a chance to talk, and so but I just love everything that you're doing. I love the bravery and courage that you had to step outside of what we would consider to be a very kind of rigid type of environment with expectations of how you behave as an attorney, and you said no, like we're not going to do this anymore. And I think that is so important, because it's important for everyone, But I also think it's really important for women to be able to see someone like you and listen to your talks and read your books and say, you know what, I don't have to show up like the traditional attorney has, which for years, decades and generations has been, always looked like a white dude, right? And we come to the table with different skill sets oftentimes and different ways of doing things. But having worked in male dominated industries, it's easy to fall into the behavior patterns that don't serve us because it's the way it's always been done around here. And so kudos to you, chapeau, for opening the door to that and talking about it. I just love it. So everyone, connect with or follow Claire on LinkedIn. It's Claire E. Parsons. Also, Chris, can you pop up the website as well here? And then when will people be able to find you in bookstores, or where can they purchase your books?
Yeah, it's on Amazon now on paperback, hardback, and Kindle. So yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to send you, my daughter works for a subsidiary of Macmillan Publishing, and she also works in a little local bookstore. So I'm going to see if I can connect you and see if we can get you into the bookstore right down the road from us. That'd be amazing.
Great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. Happy long weekend, everyone. Whatever you are doing, hold the people who you care about close to you, and make sure that you document all of the Fuck It Bucket moments, because we want to hear about them when we come back next week. And Claire, thank you again for joining us. It has been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.